These UFOs are out here, man, and I want to find them.
Perhaps no one spends as much time on skyward mysteries as Jeff Woolwine.
But when these lights come on, it's like somebody with a switch on a wall. Boop. Here we are.
Woolwine's tours are free too, and you're free to believe or not.
Jeff Woolwine, the first person to do this. I think he's as honest as the day is long.
He describes his guests as top-notch, credible, and says Woolwine is one of the good guys.
Whether you believe in UFOs or not, there is something here. And they were here a long time ago. And their sightings is recorded on the mountain.
This is the Montana film, projected exactly as it was photographed. The objects are moving against a 25 to 28 mile an hour wind. This is the film in double frame or slow motion. A slight bounce in the movement of the objects as well as the tower is perceptible. This is due to the handheld camera. The film, analyzed frame by frame, shows the movement of the objects to be horizontal and steady.
We will now vary the action and size of the objects and also stop the action from time to time for your study. We have just made a jump cut in the film to an enlarged size and reversed the action. You are now seeing the objects exactly as they were photographed, but from a closer perspective. Analysis reveals that the objects are not balloons, nor any kind of known aircraft. The images are very different from those produced by any kind of birds at any distance. The shape, brightness, speed, rectilinear path, steady motion, and separation rule out various forms of optical atmospheric mirages or cloud reflections. Comprehensive analysis has eliminated meteors and other known natural phenomena. The possibility of airplane reflection has been carefully studied and ruled out.
This is the Utah film as it was originally photographed.
The image structure and maneuvers definitely eliminate any kind of known aircraft.
This is where Chief Photographer Newhouse, in his excitement, changed exposure. He believed that by changing density and giving the film more contrast, he could clarify the objects. The single object that reversed its course. The bounce is due to handheld camera. Now we study the action of one section of the film. We stop the action. We move in.
Within a 5-mile range, aircraft could be determined. In excess of 5 miles, the speeds are greater than aircraft can achieve, except in straight-line speed runs. The movement here follows an elliptical or circular pattern. Microscopic examination reveals that the objects are well focused. Their size varies from 1/6 to 1/10 the size of the moon, as it appears to the naked eye. Their form is circular and sometimes elliptical. This fits the commonly used flying saucer description.
Observe the object in the upper left corner. We move in to study the action. The object upper left will go out of frame on widescreen projection. Observe the motion of the two objects upper right as we rock them back and forth. Now we move over and up on the frame to make a closer study of the object in the upper left corner.
Examine this object closely. Compare it with those objects you saw in the Montana film. These films were taken approximately 2 years apart, hundreds of miles apart.
We drop back to the original perspective and resume. Now the section of the film where photographer Newhouse changed exposure.
Weather conditions, together with the persistence and motion of the formations, eliminate the possibility of atmospheric mirages. Photogrammetric experiments have shown that the images cannot be associated with any kind of birds at any distance.
Stop. Now forward again. Stop. We drop back to original perspective. Now once again, and for the last time, the Utah film.
The objects cannot be associated with any known balloon observations.
For the last time, the Montana film.
Right around the corner too, but here's some entertainment headlines you need to know about.
Now, back live to the newsroom. Here's Mike Chamberlain.
Tonight's video of the day comes to us from South Phoenix. Jeff Woolwine took this home video of something rather odd in the sky. The black object appears to be about 8 a.m. one day last week when it swoops and moves all over his apartment complex, and he lives near 40th Street and Baseline. At first, we thought it was a black plastic bag, but Jeff says that it was the size of a Volkswagen, and it holds its shape the entire time that it is on camera.
Absolutely silent. No heat from it. I think the reason why some people might have not noticed it is because it didn't make any sound. It was very silent when it was cruising.
So if indeed you know what it is, why don't you visit us on www.azfamily.com and let us know what it is. It's a big mystery over the skies of Phoenix again.
Today, glad you are back with us on the Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. How's everybody doing? So glad you're with us. Welcome or welcome back to the show. If you're new to the show, please subscribe, and it helps the show a lot. Find us on YouTube. the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. I'm your host, Jeff Woolwine. And the only place on where real investigations on exactly what the Phoenix Lights really is and the true history of Phoenix, Arizona, all from a credible researcher, myself, and being out there on the field, hiking the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona, seeing the Phoenix Lights numerous times. You know, the Phoenix Lights just didn't happen back in '97. They've happened over 2,000 years ago, and they continue today. So it's nothing new in the skies of Phoenix. The Phoenix Lights is a part of Phoenix, Arizona history. You won't find us any other information but here on this show. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And you know what? So there's been some kind of, I don't know if you want to call it disclosure or not. I don't really consider it disclosure. I just think that the government is now trying to come out and say, well, you know, everyone's seeing these things in the sky, so we're going to come out and we're going to talk about this new document, unclassified pages of, they don't call them UFOs anymore. Hello. What are they? UAVs or UAPs? Is that what it is now? And unidentified flying phenomenon or something. I don't know. We're going to get into that today. We're going to talk about it, and we're gonna break it down. And so we won't read the whole documents, but we'll just break it down and kind of give you my thoughts on this document that they released finally. But first, let's get into the announcements. Okay, so Vulture City Paracon Part 2 out there at Vulture City Mines in Wickenburg, Arizona. Come out there and check out the Vulture City Paracon Part 2. Yours truly will be out there doing a first ever UFO sky watching event. We're going to be doing ghost hunts. There's going to be lots of great speakers out there. And come on down. Let's do a meet and greet. Let's talk about UFOs. Bring your books down. I'll be doing autographs and stuff. And this is the first time ever. Not only are we doing a ghost hunt out there, but we're also doing a first time ever UFO sky watching event hosted by yours truly. I'll be out there conducting the UFOs, and hopefully we'll get to see some lights out there, or who knows what is going to happen. But yeah, you know, I've been getting stories out there from Jane Marie Yates that they are continuing to see things out there in the skies. So yeah, we're going to go out there. We're going to hunt down these UFOs, going to hunt down these ghosts, and we're going to find out what's going on. So come on out here, October 8th, 9th, and 10th, 2021. 2021 this year. Vulture City Paracon Part 2, Vulture City Mines out there in Wickenburg, Arizona. Come on out here, get your tickets fast because they're going to go quickly. These tickets are not going to last. There's going to be some great speakers out there. I know that you're going to love it. We had a great time last event, and it was awesome. Okay, I'd like to talk about my other YouTube channel. I'm also a ghost hunter. I'm not only a UFO investigator for the Phoenix Lights, UFO ambassador, but I'm also a ghost hunter. And so I have a YouTube channel called Haunted Encounter Adventures. Please subscribe to that channel if you're into ghosts and paranormal stuff and seances and things like that. This is the channel that you want to check out. And the Haunted Encounter Adventures. Find me on Facebook also. Become a member there on my group. And share your ghost stories with me. I'd love to see it. You know, share your ghost videos or ghost photos. And it's a place where you and other people can interact on ghost stories and share their experiences. Haunted Encounter Adventures. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and become a member at the Facebook group also. Okay. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits, True Stories, Myths, Legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Written by yours truly, Jeff Woolwine, right here. And this is 15 years of research on the Phoenix Lights. You know, I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a native. I've been seeing these things in the sky ever since I was a young lad, playing catch football with my dad out there in the front yard, looking up, there's an orb in the sky, seeing these lights in the sky. So I've been growing up with these UFOs, these creatures in the sky, all my life. So I'm not somebody that, you know, just came in from another state. I'm born and raised here in Phoenix. My mother, she loved the Native American cultures and stuff, so I was always brought up in that type of environment. We sat down with many Native American chiefs, and they used to draw me kachinas, and it was really great. And we went to all the museums and the arts, so I was brought up into this culture, into this way of life. And you know, when I found out that, you know, not only do we have strange things in the skies, but we have strange markings carved out there by the Native Americans on the rocks in the Phoenix in the mountains of Phoenix. You know, I had to put the two and two connections together, and you know, and that's what it was. That's exactly what I proved. I proved that the Phoenix Lights has been here before in Phoenix, not only in 1997, of course, but prior to that. You know, this was part of Arizona's past, Arizona's history. And the Phoenix Lights has always been visiting this valley, especially a mountain called South Mountain. And the Native Americans called it Mount Sepoa, Mountain of Mercy, because all the Native Americans from all different kinds of areas used to gather here in this valley, here in Phoenix, Arizona, and watch the Phoenix Lights at South Mountain, and watch all these other, you know, what the Mayans call Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpents. Yes, that's Quetzalcoatl was carved up there on South Mountain. And I've seen them. I videotaped them many times. Those of you who have been following me on my past shows and followed me for these last 18, 20 years or so, you know that I've seen these flying serpents. And yes, there are flying serpents carved on the mountains of Phoenix. And, you know, it's really interesting because, you know, the answers have always been there. The answers have always been there. And yet still people are still trying to figure out what these things are. You know, I was going down this path. I was going down this road thinking, you know, spaceships, alien technologies, you know, little gray men from Mars, and believing people when they say, oh, I've got an alien in my closet and things like this, you know, right? So I'm believing that stuff, right? You know, until I started really looking into stuff, and all the evidence and all the credibility was taking me down another road. And once I started realizing what these things were, and seeing them firsthand, up close, I mean, look at that flying spider, that thing that I just showed you, that video of the day. I mean, that thing flew right by the window, and that thing was alive, you know, and it was changing shape. And when you zoom in on the thing, you know, it looks like it has skin. So, you know, this is not a craft that we're dealing with. This is not this technology. It's not a spaceship. These things are living entities, living creatures. And so we're gonna talk about that, you know, and we're gonna show how not only I've been watching these things, but these black helicopters and white airplanes, and yeah, somebody else is out there watching these things. And, you know, and this document that we're going to talk about today that they released explains why. Explains why I was videotaping and seeing the black helicopters around South Mountain when I was watching in the year of 2005. That in these documents, these government documents, these unclassified documents, talks about the reasons why I was filming black helicopters out there, the reason why these airplanes were following me around as I was watching the Phoenix Lights in 2004. So yeah, we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits, True Stories, Myths, Legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. This is my book. and it has plenty of photographs, and this isn't just hearsay. Okay, all of this is 15 years of proven facts. Okay, not only of my tons and tons and hiking of researching out there on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona, taking photographs of the petroglyphs, and calling in a Native American shaman to actually explain to me what the petroglyphs mean, and finding not only proof of the tombs. I found tombs up there, gold tombs left by the Mayans and the Hohokam Indians on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona. But also I found proof of this in the Phoenix Library, in the downtown Phoenix Library. And when the first park ranger, Charles Holbrook, in the 1930s, was out there on South Mountain protecting the gold tombs on South Mountain from gold robbers, from the tomb seekers. And so yeah, I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. I literally can talk the talk and walk the walk, okay? Because I have proof, I have credibility, evidence of the things that I pretty much say, and a lot of these skywatchers don't, and it's kind of sad. But yeah, I've done so much research into the Phoenix Lights. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen them up close. I've seen what they look like during the daytime. I successfully matched these Phoenix Lights to the carvings around the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona. I even matched the 1997 spread. Okay, so the Indians saw that and recorded that way before we did. And there it is. It's on the front cover of my book. Look at that right there in front of you. Look at that. That is the 1997 Phoenix Lights that has been seen before at least 1,000 years ago by the Native American Indians, by the Hohokam Indians. They saw the exact same type of sighting we witnessed back in 1997. So yeah, the evidence is there, and the answers is carved on the mountains around Phoenix, on what these things are, not only here in Phoenix but also around the world. It's the same stories. It's not different things. It's the same creatures, man. It's the same entities that are flying around your skies also. It's nothing new. When you ask Earth, when you ask the planet here, about its history, the Earth will tell you, oh yeah, man, those things have been here all the time. They were here before you guys showed up, man. I've been watching these things hanging around my mountains for thousands of years. Where have you guys been? This isn't anything new. You know why? Because they're not from another planet. This is their planet also. This is their world. Earth is their planet. They are not from another world. They're not from another planet. They're not from Alpha Centauri. Just like animals, we have the animals here on the ground. These things is like another type of entity, another type of animal. And this is their planet too. And so we're going to kind of go into that a little bit later on in the show. And we're going to talk about that, and we'll talk about how, there's how the conspiracies is just kind of, gathering up, So we'll get into that a little bit later. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. Pick it up on eBay and anywhere that you can find the ebooks and things like that. So get your books fast, because never know how long they will be out there. Okay, so For Real Watchers Radio Show. Check these guys out. These guys are my buddies, Jerry and Brett. Check them out. You guys have any stories that you guys want to talk about or show or anything like that, contact these guys. They're awesome people. And I appreciate you guys, sponsoring me and promoting my shows and this and that. You guys are awesome, and keep up the awesome work, you guys. And so yeah, they talk about ghosts, they talk about UFOs. I mean, anything that's a good topic, man. You got something you want to talk about? Contact these guys, get on their show, get the word out. Don't be afraid, and let's have a good time. All right. For Real Watchers Radio Show. Boy, I always have a hard time saying that. All right, let's get into it. So, recently, the government has come out and supposedly declassified some documents here. Now, you know, I really thought that it was going to be a whole long page. And, I mean, if there's more than 8 pages, then someone please send me the link, because I only found 8 pages of this, and it looks like that there was a 9th page, but it's been cut out. So who knows if that's another conspiracy going on, if that's another cover-up. They only let us know so much. I don't know. Anyway, all I'm saying is there was a number 9 there, but it's gone. Okay, so they stopped calling these things UFOs. Let's get into this. So we have to learn on these new abbreviations now. Okay, so the definition key. We're gonna start off with this. The definition keys. Let's just get this out of the way because it's really in the way. Okay, so definition of key terms, because we all have to learn on what they're talking about now. This report on UAPIF database used the following defining terms: unidentified aerial phenomenon. That's what they call UFOs now. UAP, airborne objects not immediately identifiable. The acronym UAP represents the broadest category of airborne objects reviewed for analysis. Okay. UAP events. Description of an occurrence during which the pilot or an aircraft or an aircrew witnessed or detected a UAP. Okay, so that's what UAP is. UAP incident, a specific part of the event, and a UAP report, documents of a UAP event to include verified claims of custody and basic information such as the time, date, location, description of the UAP. UAP reports include range, flounder and reports and other reportings. Okay, so now that we have that out of the order, they stopped calling them UFOs, but they are now called UAPs. All right. Okay, let's get into this. This report provides an overview of policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP while providing means to. Let me move this down here for a minute, because let's see. Let's try to figure out this way. Okay, so this report provides an overview of policymakers of challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat by UAPs, while also providing means to develop relevant process, policies, technologies, and training for the U.S. military and other U.S. government, USG, personnel, and if when they encountered UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence community, IC, ability to understand the threat. So they're calling these things a threat. I mean, in a way, those of you who have been following me all these years know, what I think about these things. So yeah, are they telling us, yeah, there's a threat here? I think yes. I think there is a threat here. I don't think we're in any immediate danger as of now, but I think in the long term, yes, I would agree with what they're saying here. Understanding the threat. So yes, this is a type of threat that we're looking at here. Those of you who've been watching me and watching my shows know that I'm not saying these things are good. So yeah, this is a possible threat here. It is a threat, and this is the reason why. Look at the history of Phoenix. Let me ramble here for a minute. So the reason why, I believe they're calling these things a threat. So they know that these things, they know the history of these beings, of these creatures. Okay. And so they're kind of letting us know, they're calling them a threat. Yes, they're a threat. Why? Why is it? Because look at the history. Look at the history of these beings, okay? Every time these beings interact with man, when you look at the data, okay, when you look at the evidence, when you study the petroglyphs, and you study the traditions of the Native Americans and some of these ancient scrolls that we read, and just Earth's history that has been, either tried to be covered up or has been covered up, especially the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona, that has been covered up in the library for 80 years. And what does that say about the Hohokam Indians? It says that when they first arrived here in Phoenix, that these beings taught these people how to survive. So everything was fine for 1,000 years until one day, for reasons unknown, because there was sacrificing going on South Mountain. I found the altars. Charles Holbrook in his writings talk about the sacrifice things that were going on there. They sacrificed their enemies and stuff like that. So yeah, you can read more of this information on my website down below on my YouTube channels, on my YouTube videos. That's where you can find my website. And it talks about Charles Holbrook, and it shows the exact diagram or a little folder in which he explains on what these things are and what the Native Americans call these things. They call them spirits of the earth and sky. And so when all of a sudden, when the sacrificing stopped, that's when things started to dry up in the valley, because it wasn't a desert at that time. It was like a tropical-like landscape. There's evidence of water all over this Valley of the Sun. And so it says when the sacrificing stopped, that's when these entities came from the east and took these people away. The archaeologist wants us to believe, well, they just simply migrated somewhere else. Well, if that's the case, where did they go? We can't find any evidence on where they went. They were here for 1,000 years, and all of a sudden they just, they walked away from it, and we can't find out where they went. But the word of mouth from the Native Americans, who was taught by their ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors for 1,000 years. Their parents told them, you know what? You know what happened to your ancestors? They got taken away. They got taken away by these spirits, man. By these, what we call UFOs, what is now called UAPs. Gotta get used to that. It's not UFOs anymore, people. It's UAPs. Unidentified unidentified aerial phenomenon. Boy, I gotta get used to that. And that's exactly what happened. And so yeah, when they come out and say, oh, this is a threat. It is a threat. It is a threat. And, when it was all over with, when the Hohokams, witnessed what was going on, some of them hid in caves because they were afraid. They were getting taken away. Their people were getting taken away up into the sky, never to return. They were carried away. And the survivors, when it was all over with, there were survivors that hid in caves, and they came out, and they were screaming at their leaders, saying, "Why did you stop the sacrifice? Look what happened. Our place is dried up now. Our people are taken away by the spirits, by the gods. They took them away. They're angry. You pissed them off." And the leaders, this is all written down by Charles Holbrook, the first park ranger. Okay, now this is what he says about the Hohokam Indians. He says that the tribal leaders then knew that it was wrong to stop the sacrifice, so they committed suicide on the sacrificing altars. And the rest of the people buried the gold in the mountains of South Mountain, they buried the gold in these tombs. And Holbrook writes that this gold was as round as the sun and as tall as the highest saguaro cactus. This was a lot of gold that's here on South Mountain. Not only brought from the Hohokams, but brought from the Mayans. Some would even say that the Hohokams were the Mayans. Why not? I could go with that because, back then, Arizona was part of Mexico. So Arizona wasn't always, like Arizona. This was part of Mexico. So sure, they migrated over here. What did they do? They followed the Phoenix Lights to this valley. They followed the lights, just like I did, to South Mountain. And so they buried the gold and they vowed never to come back to this valley because they knew it was a threat. They knew these things was a threat. They said that if they're going to continue to live in this Phoenix, Arizona, to live in the Valley of the Sun, then eventually they would have to go back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So they put a curse on this land, vowing never to return here, never to live here again, because there was a curse here. And they packed up and they went back to their hometown. They went back to their land, Mexico. They stopped off at Casa Grande, now known as the house. They taught the people there how to build canals and how to make structures. That's the reason why they call it, Casa Grande, Grand House. There's still a monument still built out there. Casa Grande. And they stayed there for like a couple years, and then they ended up going back to Mexico. But they never came back to Phoenix. Why? They never came back to this valley because it was a threat, man. They knew that these things in the sky took their people away. It was a threat. So yeah, the ability to understand the threat. Let's get back to it. The director, UAPTF, the unaccountable official for insurrecting the timely collection and consideration of data on a UAP. Describing this report, currently limited primarily to the U.S. government reporting of incidents occurring from November 2004 to March 2021. Data continues to be collected and analyzed. Is that interesting? Is that 2004? Hello? Oh, what? Are you serious? Because those of you who've been watching me all these years and following me know that I started, filming these lights on the east side of South Mountain in 2004. And what have I always been saying? There's airplanes watching these lights. So yeah, man. That right there, that just explains why I was seeing the airplanes out there in 2004. And talks about, why I was seeing helicopters out there on South Mountain in 2005 and continue to see the helicopters out there. Matter of fact, let's look at this. Let's take a look at this here. Here's a black helicopter in 2005. So, a few days prior to this, I had filmed a flying serpent. All right, it came out of a canyon. Right, made the news. And I was the only one that saw where this serpent, Quetzalcoatl flying serpent came out of. Look at the helicopter now. Look, he's looking right at me. Okay, let's stop this for a minute. Let's pause this. Let's get a good pause on this helicopter. Okay, so, and right above that canyon, right? So there's a canyon down the South Mountain, all right? And I was there a few days before, all right? And my son and I was up there, and I'm taking a break. I was in this canyon, And there's spirals in up and down this canyon. Lots of spirals. And spirals are doorways. And so it's telling us that this whole canyon down the side of South Mountain, that whole canyon is a doorway for the underworld, for these spirits. The Native Americans say they're going down into the underworld. On a scientific analysis, they're actually going down into that fault line. The whole reason why they're hanging around South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona is because South Mountain was created by this fault line and it generates energy. Okay, so in certain times of the seasons, when the sun gets in the right position between the equinox and the solstice, it acts like it opens up these doors, if you will. It causes a fusion effect, and it attracts these beings to these natural energy spots around the earth, around the world. So when the sun is in the right position here on the west coast, South Mountain is one of the areas where these beings come and go from for thousands of years because they're here for that energy. So I'm kicking back at this canyon, and there's spirals there, and there's petroglyphs right across the way from where I'm resting at. And one of the interpretations on these rock art out here is some of these petroglyphs has the power to invoke the spirits. Okay, and inadvertently, I accidentally did that. Okay, I heard the rumor of this, so I decided to test it. Now, right above that canyon is a carving of two men looking up at a flying serpent. Right? That's important here, because on the top of the canyon we have a flying serpent. We have two men looking up at a flying snake. Down the canyon, it tells like these little bits of stories here, and a lot of spirals down all the way from the top of the mountain all the way down to the ground, all the way down to the base of the mountain. Tons of spirals, doorways, telling us that's the doorway. So I said, hey, you guys are cool. Why don't you come and see me? Like 2 days later, I look out my window because I strategically put myself on the east side of South Mountain, around the baseline area. And to watch that mountain, the mountain, I sat there for like 3 years. And I was getting some incredible things. And I learned about the doorways that was out there. And I learned that this canyon was one of the doorways. And so I'm watching the mountain. I'm getting my son ready for school. I'm constantly going to the kitchen window. I got my camera set up, got my chairs set up. I'm ready to go. I'm watching the mountain. I'm doing my research. And I just happen to look up, and lo and behold, this huge serpent, this red and black serpent, comes up at the top of that canyon, right there where the petroglyphs were, where the guy's looking up at one, came out of that canyon, up into the sky about 1,000 feet, and then came over the apartment complex. I've got all this on video, right? I videotaped all of this. You can actually see on how he's walking in the sky. This thing was clearly alive. This is not technology. These are living creatures here, living entities, living beings. And so he's up there, and then, I grabbed my kid, I grabbed my camera, I went outside to greet him. My son's going to the bus stop. I'm out there in the parking lot filming this thing right over my head. Lo and behold, what happens next? I hear two little white airplanes. Because in the beginning, like when I was watching the lights on the east side of South Mountain, 2004, just as the reports are talking about here, this is when they're starting to do their investigations in 2004. I'm out there watching the lights, and there's airplanes up there in the sky. And as soon as these lights would appear right over this power plant on the east side of South Mountain, it would appear over that energy source. These airplanes would zoom in down after them. Now, I was thinking maybe that they were there to investigate them. Somebody else is watching what's going on. I'm watching them. I'm filming it. They're watching it. But no. It seemed to me that they were shooing them away. They were trying to get them out of the area. And that's exactly what was going on most of the time. These airplanes would fly in on these lights. As soon as they got within about a mile radius of these lights would disappear. Airplanes would come over, circle that area, right over that area, and then go back up in the sky and hover and circle and wait for these lights to come back. Now, most of the time, the airplanes, the lights would the airplanes would, chase them out of there. But sometimes the lights never moved. I have videos on where the airplanes are chasing the lights away. I have videos of when the lights are like, screw you, dude, I'm not going anywhere. The light is right there, right over that power plant on Ray Road on the east side of South Mountain. That light's right there, and this airplane is trying to get that thing out of the area, and that dude's not moving, man. That light's not moving. It's sitting there, right? So after I made the news like 3 or 4 times that summer of 2004, not only it caused the attention of these airplanes. The airplanes started watching me now. So I started, I was being watched by the watchers, by whoever was up there chasing away these lights. Now they're watching me now. And they eventually found out where I lived at. They must have followed me. And so they would know every day right before sunsets when me, my son, and my friends would take off and to go to our spot to watch these lights at. And I noticed that these little white airplanes are circling my apartment now. And they're waiting. They're waiting for me to leave. And when I do, they followed me all the way to my setup where I watched them at. And they sat there and they watched me put up the camera and the tripod. And when I go home, the airplanes followed me home. So in 2005, I moved to the mountain because at the end result of the news, they're saying everyone's seeing flares. I'm like, dude, no, these things are right here in the valley. They're right there by South Mountain. There's a power plant these things are hovering over. It's bullshit. It's not flares 150 miles away in Tucson, Arizona. These damn things are here in the valley. I'm like, wait a minute, because all the information, all the studies that I've been doing over the last, year or two is pointing me towards mountains. When I first encountered the Phoenix lights, they were going towards South Mountain. I followed these things to the mountain. So I was like, dude, let's move to the mountain in 2005, in the beginning of January of 2005. Let's see if we can get some day shots. And also, let's hike the mountain and see what's going on out there. And so that's what I did. In 2005, I strategically put myself about a mile away from South Mountain on the east side, and I watched for 3 years. And I tell you what, I got some incredible stuff. All right, and that video that you saw in the beginning of that flying spider-looking thing, that video of the day, that was one of them. It was crazy stuff. That's when I learned that it's not technology. It's not, aliens. It's living beings. It's a living creature, right? And so my point was, so I'm back to the serpent. And the serpent's up in the air. And then lo and behold, 2 little white airplanes come in. And it scares that thing. And it takes off it goes over Phoenix. And it goes down around, it goes north. It goes down probably around, like Camelback Mountain or Piosto Peak, whatever you want to talk and call that mountain now. It used to be Squaw Peak, but now it's Piosto Peak. So it went down over there in that area. My point was that I was the only one that witnessed where that thing came out of. So I took that thing to the news, all right, and I verified the petroglyphs. I'm the first one in history to ever match these beings in the sky, these creatures in the sky, to the Native American rock art. And once I took that video to the news, and they aired it. About a few days later, this helicopter starts coming around the mountain. All right, this is my window. This is my window here. Okay, and there's South Mountain right there. And I noticed that he was kind of checking me out. And if you notice, later on, now look what he's doing there. He's just kind of hovering there. See, and there's the mountain right over there in that area there. Well, a little bit more to the right. You'll see it here in a second. That's where that serpent came out of. Now, from there, I was kind of watching like 4 or 5 doors. I call them doorways out there. The rock art that has the spiral doorways, and I'm watching these things come and go from the mountain out there in certain spots, and I call them doorways. So I was watching like 4 doorways. Now, this helicopter here, he went to 3 or 4 other doorways that I had no idea about. Like, this is one of them. He's kind of hovering over this doorway here. All right, look at that. Look, he's like pointing right at me. Let's examine this footage here for a minute. Okay. This is what this document is talking about. This document is talking about they started their watching or their investigations in 2004. Well, now this 2006. This video here is. So I've been doing this for over a year now. And the serpent came out in 2006. This happened just like a few days after it made the news. And so this black helicopter, I don't know what he's doing, but he's out there on the mountain and he's kind of surveying the mountain, or he's looking at me. He's looking at the mountain there. And he goes to different doorways. If you notice what he's doing here, he's going to different doorways. Now, I'll show you exactly where this serpent came out of, because this helicopter goes to this area where this flying serpent at. He came to that area 3 times. Now, how did he know? Look, he's staring right there. Look at that. He's hovering right over the mountain, looking straight at me. Okay? This is right after I made the news. This is a couple days after I made the news. So he's checking out me, where I'm set up at, where I'm watching at. All right? And he's really doing a job here. Look at that. And he goes 3 times to that spot where the flying serpent came out of. And how did he know? How did he know where that serpent came out of? I was the only one that saw it that morning. Exactly the same place on where it came out. Look how close he is now. Look, here he goes. Where's he going now? Look, watch where he's going. He puts his nose right there, right at the tip of where this flying serpent came out of. Let's see if this is let's see if this is where he goes. Not right now. That flying serpent. Well, it came out of somewhere to the right there. I'll show it here in a minute. As soon as he hovers right over it, I'll show you where he is. But the helicopter is checking out all these doorways. So in a way, he checked out 4 doors that I'm already watching. But he then went to other doors that I didn't know anything about, and I started watching them. Okay, here he goes. Here he goes. So he's going right to where this serpent came out of. He's heading right to that area. Right here. Right there. Right there is where that serpent came out of. See that canyon there right below him? You see that canyon? Look at that. He knows exactly where that thing came out of. What the hell? Look at that. He's looking right at it. That's the exact same spot where that flying serpent came out of. Now, how the hell did he know that? Now he's taking off. He's cruising around now. Let's watch him. And what is he doing? And this is why this document came out. Because they started this in 2004. And they've been watching me, ever since. And they continue to watch me even to this day. I see the helicopters and the airplanes are circling my house. They're always watching. Look what this guy's doing. Where's he going now? Check him out. And so, yeah, this explains, this, and they're telling you in this uncovered document that this is what they were doing. And I have proof. This explains on why I was seeing so many black helicopters and I was seeing so many white airplanes. Look at that. Look at it turn right around. Here it goes. Look at this. What the hell is going on out there, Well, this document, this unclassified document now, explains what they're doing. They know. They know what's here. They know the history of these beings. They know exactly what's going on. Look at this guy, man. What the hell, man? He knows. He knows. He knew what I saw. He knew where it came out of. How? How did he know that? Because he's been watching this longer than I have. Okay? They know what's going on here. Just because that report says, they started in 2004, they've been doing this way longer because, I mean, the film that I showed at the beginning of the show, shows these orbs, so they've been knowing about these things for years now. Look at that. Look at that. What the hell, dude? This is proof on what this document is saying, is that they started their reports. Now, they knew about it, all right? But they didn't really want to come out and start making reports on it until 2004. Look at that thing, dude. He's hovering over the exact place where that serpent came out of. He knew. He knows what's up. Is that crazy or what? This is what you want to look for. Spirals on mountains and strange activity from the airplanes and the helicopters, and circling around, checking out stuff. You're only going to see this here, folks. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because you won't see any of this type of evidence anywhere else. I was doing this stuff way before UFO Hunter Show and way before Ancient Aliens. Look at this now. Look what he's doing now. Now he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there. He knows where I'm looking at. He knows. And if he's got binoculars, then he knows that I'm zoomed in on that guy, man. I'm filming him. I'm filming him from my window. Yep. That's exactly what's going on here. He's out there. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's just letting me know, look, we're watching too. He's telling me, because look, he knows I'm filming him. He knows I'm watching. He's got to see me in the window with my big-ass camera. So he's got to see me. And look at that, right over there in that area. Right down over there. That's the hot spot for these beings. There's major petroglyphs out there, major spirals, yeah. So that explains on this document here. Now, I want to show you something else real quick before we move on. Now, this helicopter was out there circling around. I want you to look at the time. Okay, 5:20, all right? Oh, my bad. Let's back up here. Okay, so this helicopter, right there he is. You can barely see him. See him there? So this helicopter was hanging around South Mountain, hanging around this area. He was just kind of hovering there. And by the time that, let me back it up. By the time that I saw him out there and I jumped on the camera, he had left that area and started to come right at me. Now, whenever he left, watch the time. It's 5:09 p.m. Okay, and that helicopter was circling out there in this spot, out there around this certain area of South Mountain, and then he comes right over my apartment. Watch this, 5:09. Here he comes. He was quick, so I had to jump on the camera quick. There he goes. He flew over my apartment. 5:09, 5:16. Now look at this. Look what occurred here. Look what happened. He was out there watching that mountain, hovering over that exact same spot when I witnessed him, when I saw him, and then by the time I jumped on my camera to start filming him, he took off and went over my apartment, and like 10 minutes later, this creature comes from the exact same area, the exact same spot on where he was watching. Now, I think, watching the airplanes and the helicopters and stuff, I think that when the energy starts to build up around these doorways, around these emergence points, around these spiral vortexes, if you will, I think you're able to see them. I think the government has a type of way like see like maybe the energy or something build up in that area, maybe through infrared or something like that. Because I noticed some of these white airplanes, they had these black domes on their belly, like a type of camera or something. And I noticed that these helicopters sometimes would show up before or after these things left the mountain. And I really think that they were able to have some kind of camera or sophistication technology or something to watch that mountain and see the energy build up, or they'll hover over that area, and they're able to see what is about to take place there. They see the energy start to build up in these vortexes, in these spiral doorways, in these emergence points for these beings of the earth and sky, for these creatures. Because they're literally coming and going from this mountain out here. And the helicopter clearly knew it. He knew something was going to happen out there. He must have saw the energy building up. And, these things are smart. If you're on the mountain, then they won't come around. They'll come about a mile away from you, stuff like that. If you're right there at the door and they want to go into that door, then they'll find another door. They'll go somewhere else. So they want to kind of stay away from man as much as they can. They'll let us see them for right now, but as far as getting close to them, they're just not having it right now. At least that's my personal experiences. I've tried to hunt them down and get closer to them, and you just can't do that. The more and more you try, the more and more they just get away from you. And so if that helicopter is hanging over that door, they're either going to go somewhere else, they're going to come out somewhere else, or they're going to wait for that helicopter to leave. And that's exactly what occurred here. That helicopter was hanging around that area minutes before this creature, this being, left South Mountain. Look at that. So that explains them saying, the government reporting indications occurring. They started November 2004 until the end of March 2021. And I just showed you proof. That's what was going on. That explains all the helicopter activity, all the airplane activity, everything. Assumptions. Various forms of censors. Excuse me. Let me open this up because I can barely see that on my screen. So let me open up this a little better because I want to flood you with assumptions. Various forms from sensors that register UAPs generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow essential assessments. But some UAPs may not be attributable to the sensor anomalies. Okay, so that's saying that sometimes they can pick them up, but other times they can't. So, and they say the sensors. Didn't I say earlier? Didn't I just get done saying, look, they have some kind of technology, some kind of way of knowing when energy is going to build up on the mountains and when something is going to occur there. And they don't want to attract too much attention to that area, but they'll send in a little spy plane. And yes, there's airplanes up there waiting. They circle South Mountain all the time. They wait for, to see if anything's going to come out of there. And the helicopters will come right in there, and they have these sensors. Now some of them pick up that type of energy as it starts to build up, or if it's going to close or something. Yeah, I believe that. And it tells you right here, forms of sensors that registers a UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. UFOs. I got to get used to saying that now. It's not UFOs anymore. It's UAPs, okay? And so, yeah, they have some kind of technology, the government does, on how either, just to pick them up or know when they are going to appear in some areas, such as South Mountain and Phoenix, Arizona. I just showed you the helicopters flying around that area. Executive summary. The limited amount of high-quality reporting from unidentified aerial phenomenon hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature of intent of UAPs. Hampers the ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature of the UAPs. They know, okay? They know what's up. You know, there was even a rumor. I don't know how credible this is. There was a rumor that what was it? Was it Clinton back in '97? That Clinton, the president at that time, when the Phoenix Lights came out in 1997, there's inconclusive reports. I don't know how credible this is, but I heard something that the president went underground. Okay, when the 1997 lights happened on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona. And so, you know, when you look at it, nothing flew over Phoenix. There's no evidence of this. The only evidence is we have lights on the west side of Phoenix. That's all that happened that night. And so when that happened, they're trying to say that the president went underground. Now, if that's the case, then they know, they're waiting. The reason why they're coming out with this report is because so many people are seeing them, and now they're air traffic people, you know, they're military pilots and stuff. They're seeing these things, you know, all this stuff starting to come out since 2004, right? You know, all these video evidence of the jet fighters and stuff. I mean, and but this, we all know it's been going on since like World War II, because we're talking about the Foo Fighters and stuff, you know, same kind of stuff, right? So they know, they've been watching, you know, and you know, especially, all right, this goes back all the way to President Roosevelt. All right, this goes back to President Roosevelt. All this information, I believe, kind of started with Roosevelt. Now, we all know Roosevelt couldn't get around anywhere, okay? Because later on reports, we found out he had polio. He was restricted to a wheelchair. But he sent his wife out to investigate the United States. And when his wife came out to these places on the West Coast, you know, and she's either interviewing Indians or she's learning the landscape, she's learning about the petroglyphs, you know, especially here on South Mountain. You know, and the petroglyphs are depicting flying snakes and people getting taken away and sacrificing and depictions of demonic creatures and things like this, you know. I think, you know, that's when it all kind of started, you know, and I believe that when she went back and told the president this, President Roosevelt, you know, look, especially the West Coast, I mean, they're talking about, you know, these creatures coming down from the sky and up from the sand world and the lizard people and the altars out there and oh, it's just crazy. You know, he really started to really look into that. And during the Depression, he organized the CCC, the Civil Conservation Corps. Now that gave him a perfect reason, the perfect excuse under this New Deal, right? The perfect excuse to go in and not only give the people jobs, you know, because they needed jobs, they needed work as the Depression, but also to erase some of the history that was carved on some of these mountains that talk about the spirals, the anthropomorphs, the flying demons, the flying serpents, things like this, okay? So what did he do to South Mountain? He hired 200 people, 200 young men, to live on South Mountain for about, 2 years, 3 years? And not only did they make picnic tables and trails and stuff like that, you know, they're making it, you know, they want it to be a family-oriented park, They wanted for families to come out there. They built swing sets and barbecues and stuff like that. They had mines. They were out there digging for gold and silver. And I believe they pulled out Charles Holbrook, the park ranger, writes in his journals that they pulled out like $60,000 worth of precious gold and minerals from South Mountain from these mines. And not only did they do that, but they also blew up petroglyphs. And they blew up some of the, just like one of my last shows I talked about with the giants, because there was depictions of giants here on South Mountain, evidence of giants, and there's structures of giants with petroglyphs on them, and they went in there and they blew it up. Now, my last show, when I talk about the giants, I show you exactly what they destroyed. Now, why are they blowing up these boulders with petroglyphs on them, but they're leaving these other boulders alone? They're not blowing these things up looking for gold or looking for, silver or precious metals or something like that. Man, they're destroying the story. They're tearing up the story. And when you understand the petroglyphs, when you really understand the petroglyphs, it tells you what these things are. It tells you the history of Phoenix, Arizona. It leads you, when you understand the glyphs, when the coyotes are pointing that direction, it's telling you where to go. And most of the times it's telling you where a gold tomb is or a sacred burial site is located at. Okay? And once you realize all this, once you start understanding the glyphs, the history of Phoenix, once you start realizing, and look, it's telling me where to go, and I find this tomb, they don't want you to know that. Matter of fact, they made South Mountain a government park. Why? Because they don't want you to go off the trails. They don't want you to start digging up these tombs, because it's going to rewrite history of what they're saying anyway. I mean, the true history is talking about the giants. It's talking about, these beings of the earth and sky. And it's all credible. It's talking about the Phoenix Lights. But this stuff has been covered up for 80 years. And so when they come out and they say hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of the UAPs, that just, I don't believe that. They already know. This has been going on back since Roosevelt days, So Roosevelt hired these people to blow up the history, blow up the petroglyphs. It's his fault. He's the one that controlled all of this disinformation, cover up. It started with Roosevelt. So yeah, I don't believe that. Hampers the ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent. They already know the intent. I mean, so that's the reason why, in a way, not only are they studying these things, the black helicopters and the airplanes, and they're monitoring what's going on out there in South Mountain and Phoenix, but they're waiting because they know eventually, one of these days, because they know that that the Phoenix Lights and the flying serpents and the creatures got taken away. The people got taken away by these creatures. They got taken away by the lights. So they're waiting. Especially, they were really watching me when I was up on the mountain, because they figured, this guy, he's stupid enough. He's going up there. He's looking for him. What if, one of these things comes down and pick him up, and takes him off into the sky. And when that happens, that's when the shit's going to go down. That's when we need to inform the president that shit's going down and he needs to hide, because the end of the world is coming. Because we're entering, the Hopis say we're entering the fifth world when all this stuff starts to come down, all these prophecies, right? So they're watching me closely to see if I get taken away by these creatures. That's exactly what's going on. They're monitoring, they're watching, but most importantly, they're keeping an eye on what's going to happen. They're waiting for these things to start picking people up. Because, they don't care about us. They care about the government. They're going to tell the government, it's time to hide. Let them take all the people in Phoenix away, but us, no, dude, we know what's going on. We know why they're here. We're not going to tell the people why they're here, but we know what's up. We've been studying this way before, this little report came out. Roosevelt knew about it. Roosevelt investigated this stuff. So they're waiting, they're watching until these things start taking people up. Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, or UAPTF, considered range of information on UAP, describes the U.S. military and IC intelligence community reporting. But because the reporting lacks sufficient specificity, recognize that a unique, tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP's events. Okay. As a result, the UAPTF concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021. The majority of which is still a result in this new tailored process of better capture the UAP events through formalized reporting. Most of the UAPs reported probably do represent physical objects, given majority of UAPs were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electrical, optical, weapon seekers, and visual observations. So that electrical optical, now that's kind of new, right? Electrical optical, whoa. Could that be the sensor that they are watching these doorways at? Because when the doorways, when the creatures start to come and go from the mountain, you know, they watch, they know the energy is building up right there. And so they send in a black helicopter, they send in an airplane, and they circle the air, they watch, because they can see they're using this electro-optical to see energy. The energy is building up in that area right there, so they know a doorway is going to open or is open. And when it does, it attracts these beings. They either come out of that doorway or they go into that doorway. They know through this electro-optical device. In a limited number of incidents, UAPs reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misrepresentation, and regular additional righteous analysts. Okay. Let's move on. The UAP clearly poses a safety flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Safety concerns primarily center on aviators condensing the increasing clutter air dominion. UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversary collection platforms or provide evidence of potential adversary as developed either breakthrough or disruptive technology. So they're saying that, you know, they're trying to think, well, maybe this is, you know, the Russians or something like that, right? After carefully considering this information, the UAPTF focuses on reports that involved UAP largely witnessed furnished by military aviators and that were collected from systems we now consider to be reliable. These reports describe incidents that occurred between 2004 and 2021, with the majority coming in the last 2 years as new reporting mechanism becomes better known as military aviation community. We are able to identify reported UAPs with higher confidence. In that case, we identified the objects as large deflating balloons. The others remain unexplained. Now notice how I improvised that. I put a red mark under that. The others remain unexplained. Okay? Let's move on. The sensors mounted on U.S. military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, these sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAPs. So they're just saying that, you know, some of these sensors on these military aircraft, you know, they know what man-made objects are. You know, they know what an F-16 looks like. They know what, you know, some of the enemy planes and enemy, you know, aircrafts look like. So that is, these sensors on these aircraft are programmed to detect, you know, only the enemy's aircrafts, or, you know, or 747s and stuff like that. So these sensors, these cameras, these radars, technology, if you will, is only looking for stuff that's been told. You know, it doesn't understand. It sees this orb flying across the sky there, and it picks something up and knows it's there. We see it, the sensors see it, it knows, but it just doesn't know what it is. So that's basically all that is saying. And a handful of UAP appeared to demonstrate advanced technology. Now, they're trying to say that it's, you know, technology, but those of you who've been watching me all these years, you know, I've learned that these things aren't technology at all. That these things are alive, and so the only reason why they are saying anything like this, reference this, is because that's what they understand. Or at least that's what they want the people to understand. You know, so it's these reports here is, I mean, it's not coming from like the higher up. So like the higher up people, the helicopters and black helicopters and the airplanes, and there's like a higher level to this. They know what's going on, right? So these people are like underneath those people, right? The people that wrote this document is under the people that knows what's going on, okay? So these people here that wrote the documents, they don't have a clue. They're still thinking flying saucers, spaceships, Alpha Centauri, little green men, and people raising aliens in closets. Okay, they still think this, all right? This is what they are leading to believe. This is what they think, okay? But the higher up people understand this is more, how should I say this? This is more biblical, if you will. This is more ancient, okay? This is something that the public isn't used to, hasn't heard of, because it's been covered up for all these years. This information has been buried, destroyed, covered up, not told in our history books, right? So they want you to believe this is technology. So they're trying to say that appear to demonstrate advanced technology. Well, for someone who thinks it's technology, sure, it's advanced. But for the people who have seen them and witnessed them, and the higher ups, they know that this is another life form. This is another animal here. This is a creature. It's not technology. It's not UFOs. This is a live being. All right. This is something a little higher than man, a little more sophisticated. It's not technology at all. But to make the public more understand this, and to probably to set the minds a little at ease more, you know, they're going to say this is a new conspiracy now. This is a new cover-up. You know, they're going to say there's something here. They're going to say it's technology. They're going to say it's green men. They're going to say it's UFOs, you know, crafts or whatever, spaceships, crafts, because that has been the cover-up. That has been the story all these years. Even down to Roswell. I don't care. There's no evidence of Roswell. And when you really look at the facts here, when you look at the evidence here, you'll understand that it was a spy satellite meant to spy on the Russians. So they let that conspiracy go on UFOs. They used the UFO as a cover-up to actually to hide the fact on what was really going on. There's no evidence of anything extraterrestrial crashed in Roswell. I mean, it's all hearsay. It's people making books and trying to get famous. That's basically what it is. And you can't do that. If you're going to come out and say you saw a spaceship and something crashed, you got to have evidence here. All right? But when you really look into it, you know, it wasn't anything to do with extraterrestrials. It was due to mankind's mistake. And this thing crashed, and it was a satellite, you know. So they used the UFO crashing out there in Roswell as a cover-up. So, and that just as the Phoenix Lights, 1997, you know, something going over the Valley of the Sun, something going over Phoenix, you know, that's all hearsay. There's no evidence of that, but yet it's been told for so many years now. I mean, it's hard to get away and say that, you know. But when you have to look at the evidence here. There's no evidence of this. You know, if a handful of people can film lights on the west side of Phoenix, why couldn't a handful of people film a flying saucer going over a V-shaped craft, reportedly going 8 miles an hour, going over the city of Phoenix a mile long? Why couldn't somebody film that, right? I've been looking for evidence of this. It's been over 20 years now. Not one shed of anything. It's just hearsay. It's just a cover-up. All right, of what really happened out there. But that's what people believe. They understand technology, and so if the government comes out and says, "Oh, there's creatures, right? And there's supernatural creatures out there, and they shape shift and they change they change shape and they change color, and they have the capabilities of going in the mountains, and they have the capabilities of flying, and they can do what they want, and we can't control them, and we can't shoot them down." You know, so that's going to scare people. And also, and their history says that they took people away, not only the tribe here in Phoenix, but all the tribes around the world. They came up missing at the same time. It's because of these beings in the sky. I mean, come on now. They're not going to say this. So the next conspiracy, the next cover-up is technology. They're going to say, demonstrates advanced technology. In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns and or flight characteristics. Some UAP appears to remain stationary in the winds aloft, moving against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discriminable means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems process radio frequencies, RF, energy associated with UAP sightings. Uh-oh, there we go, right there. They just told you, energy associated with UAP sightings. Oh my God, there it is. There it is. It's the energy. Holy shit, right there. Military aircraft systems processed radio frequencies, RF, energy associated with UAP sightings. Unidentified aerial phenomenons, UFOs. For the energy. What I've been saying all these years. It's the energy. These things are attracted to the energy. These things are attracted to the natural sources on the Earth's energy. They absorb the energy. They feed off this type of energy. And in a way, they're telling you right there. They're emitting something that I discovered years before. UAP probably lacks single explanations. Well, that's what they want to tell us. The UFP documented in its limited database demonstrate the array of array behaviors, reinforcing the possibility there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Now, let's examine that here. Let's break this down here for a minute. The possibility there are multiple types of UAPs. Now, what have I been saying for the last 20 years? There are different types of creatures, different types of entities. Okay? So, the mountain, on South Mountain, the mountain, like reading the petroglyphs, understanding the petroglyphs. One area shows petroglyphs of flying diamonds. About a mile down the road, a mile down from the mountain, petroglyphs now depict flying orbs. Another mile down the mountain, these petroglyphs are depicting crooked snakes. About another mile down the mountain, these petroglyphs are depicting flying phoenix lights, flying lights. A mile down the mountain, these petroglyphs are depicting flying serpents. So, it's the same type of... So we're human, right? But there's different races, okay? There's different beings, right? So they're the same type of kind of being, but they're different, right? Diamonds, snakes, orbs, lights, crooked snakes, wiggly lines, worms. All these crazy symbols we're seeing on the rock art out there on the mountains are UFO sightings, and they're showing these weird objects, these weird things. Not spaceships, but like worms and orbs and lights and crooked snakes and stuff like that. And it's different types of them. And they're different ones. There's diamonds and serpents and snakes and orbs and lights. Possibly there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Well, I think it's the same kind of like explanation. Like they're all the same entity, but they're like different, you know? If that makes sense. Because they're animals, they're creatures. They have the same capabilities. They all shapeshift and change. But shapeshifters always go back to their natural form, their natural shape. So the diamonds go back into the diamonds, and the snakes go back into the snakes. Whether they're up there, you know, doing, you know, different formations, either flying crosses but they always come back into that serpent formation. And requiring different information or different explanations. Well, this is the explanation. They're shapeshifters. They change. But they're all the same creatures. They're all the same. They came from the same place or whatever. They're all the same. But there's different kinds of the same being. Does that make sense? Okay, so every time I tell people, if you're going to go out there and skywalk, oh, okay, live television, people. That's what happens when you, that's what happens to the live stuff. Oh, jeez. Okay, give me a few minutes here. We got kicked off. Okay, so every time that I tell, sky watchers, people that are going off there and filming things in the sky, or want to become a UFO sky watcher or a UFO researcher, I always tell them, my advice to them is, get to know the landscape of where you live at. Find out the history. Find out what kind of history your land has. Find out if there's any Indian information there. Find out if there's any sacred mountains where you live at. Find out if there's any petroglyphs on the mountains out there. And look for spirals. Okay, look for spirals. Because spirals is the key, is the emergence point. So you want to look for spirals. You want to look for anthropomorphs, shape-shifting carvings. Okay, weird creatures, flying serpents, snakes, things that look weird. These animals, the animals that are flying in the sky with different direction of feet. Anthropomorphs. That's the kind of stuff you want to look for. That is the source. You find a mountain like that, that is the source of where to see these UFOs or UAPs. Okay? That is where you want to go. Also, I can't say it enough. I can't stress it enough. If you're going to film anything in the sky, if you're going to start being a sky watcher, you must understand what man-made our aircraft look like. You must investigate what airplanes look like. You must investigate how the anti-collision blinking lights flash in a pattern. You must understand the way balloons fly. You must understand the way birds fly. You must understand how trash flies. Okay, you have to investigate all of this. All right, you just can't go into this thinking everything is a UFO. Okay, there's explanations on a lot of stuff. A lot of these people that are sending me, pictures of blinking lights and their drones or their airplanes, or their kites, or things like this, right? So if you're going to be successful at this, you can't, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to study it. You have to go out there and film balloons, okay? Film balloons. Watch balloons in the sky. Film them. Right? See what they do for your own eyes. Then come home and analyze the video. Understand the video. Understand how the balloon moves in the wind, how the balloon, does this and does that. Study the balloon techniques. Because in this way, when you see something, you automatically know, wait a minute, that's a balloon because I tested balloons before. Watch flares. Go out there and see what flares do. Understand what flares do. Look for the parachute. Look for the blinking light. Dropping the airplane out. Looking for the smoke. Look how small the flares are compared to these lights in the sky. I mean, you really have to analyze all this stuff. You just can't go out there and start filming things and expect, you see this blinking light out there and you think it's a spaceship. You think it's a spaceship, a craft, a UFO. It's not. It's blinking repetitiously. It has a pattern. All right. There's only been like maybe one or two times when I see these A-10s fly over my apartment complex and they have no lights on. But most of the time, it is a requirement to have some kind of anti-collision lights on these airplanes, on these drones, these blinking lights, and they blink in a pattern. So when you see that, when somebody sends you a video and you see this light blinking in a pattern and they're trying to believe that it's a UFO, it's a spaceship, it's not. It's an airplane. It's blinking. Understand how the airplane flies. Measure how the distance. You have to study all of this, to be a successful sky watcher. Because you don't want to make a fool of yourself. You don't want to make a fool out of other people. If you're going to say you have legitimate UFO, then you want to be able to prove it. Look, you've compared it to balloons. You've compared it to flares. You've compared it to birds. You've compared it to trash. You've compared it to anything, everything possible man-made. And it's not. So, technically, it's a UFO. Right? And that's exactly what the government is doing here. Okay? Let's look at this. If I'm on the right one here. Yep. Okay. Airborne clutter, they call it. These objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, aka drones, UAVs, or airborne debris like plastic bags that muddle a scene or affect the operator's ability to identify true targets such as enemy aircraft, right? So, what did I just get done saying? What I've been saying for years now. You have to understand what birds are. You have to understand what balloons are. You have to understand what UAVs are. You know, drones, things like this. You know, that's exactly what the government is doing. You have to determine all this, you know, because then you want to be able to rule it out, you know. Natural atmospheric phenomenon. Natural astronomic phenomenon includes ice crystals, moisture, and thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrared and radar systems. So they're teaching people what to look for, you know, how to understand stuff. Just like what I was trying to say, you know. You see a balloon, film it. Come home, watch it on video, understand what it does. See the flight path. You want to investigate flares. Go out there and watch flares, or study flares on the internet. Watch flare videos, and then go back and look at your UFO lights and compare the difference. You know, that's what this document is trying to explain here. USG, or Industrial Development Programs, such as some UAP observations, could be attributed to developments and classified programs by U.S. entities. We are unable to confirm, however, these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we have collected. Now that's interesting. So they're calling them entities, right? So there's two ways you can read that here. There's two ways you can look at that here. We are unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected and classified programs by the U.S. entities. So, I mean, I'm sure they want us to believe that, you know, it's like spy stuff, right? Stuff that, you know, just because, you know, I mean, Area 51 is out there not for aliens, but to make, you know, new technology, you know, for defense purposes, you know, things like that. So, and they're trying to say that, you know, maybe some of them are classified, you know, like stealth bombers, you know, these flying triangles, you know, people are starting to call them now TR-3Bs and stuff like that, right? There's no really evidence of that either. It's just, you know, people making computer generated of triangles and trying to say that it's a spaceship or it's a TR-3B. There's no evidence. There's no proof, you know. But they're trying to say U.S. entities. Now, the entities, that's just kind of triggers what I've been saying here, you know. So we're unable to confirm this. However, you know, there are classified programs by the United States. Are they talking about these creatures? Are they, the reason why they're saying entities and not government programs, not government people, but they're saying classified programs by U.S. entities. So, United States UFO entities? Something to think about. Foreign adversary systems. Some UAPs may be technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or non-government entity. There's that word again. There's that word again, entity. Oh my God, what I've been saying all these years. Or non-government entity. They're telling you, dude. They're telling you, look. Could be the Russians. Could be China. Could be another nation. Or it could be a non-government entity. Hello? Creature? Shoot, why do I always do that? Okay, let's move on. Although most of the UAP described in our database or data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis. We may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. We will group such objects in this category pending on scientific advances that allow us to better understand them. The UAPTF intends to focus additional analysis on small number of cases where UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. So that's just telling us that they're going to continue to watch for them, you know, but they're trying to say, you know, they need to collect more scientific. Well, it's not scientific at all. What we're seeing here is not scientific at all. They're living creatures, living entities, just like what they were saying earlier before. They keep putting that entity in there. They're just like, read between the lines here, you know. The UAPTF has 11 reports documented incidents in which pilots reported near misses with UAP. I think there's more than 11. Now, come on now. We all know. I mean, look at World War II. Look at the Foo Fighters. All these red lights that these people were chasing around, you know, on these airplanes, you know, years before. So, I mean, just 11? Come on now. That's not right at all. There's more. There's a lot more than 11. Okay, so, but that's what they want to put in here. So, but we all know different. Potential national security challenges. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are not a part of foreign collection program or interactive or of major technological advancement by potential adversary. We continue to monitor for evidence such as programs given the counterintelligence challenge they would pose, particularly in some UAPs have been detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying USG, most advanced sensor systems. Now there you go. Look at that. So yeah, they are they're watching. They're hanging around these, you know, military installations there, and especially, you know, I mean, look at the evidence here. Look at the history of these things. So every time like there's a war that breaks out, you know, there's a lot of UFO activity. We see a lot of UFO activity when war breaks out. And that's because they're waiting. They're waiting. They know, all right, that this fourth world, as the Hopis like to refer to, is about ready to end. Now, they don't know the time and date when everything is going to go down, but they know that it's getting closer. This is why we're seeing so many of them, because we're getting closer to the end of this fourth world and about ready to enter the fifth. Now, according to Hopi prophecy, according to the Hopi traditions and prophecies or things like that, they're saying that every time that man enters a new world, these things are here to help and guide man. They need these beings in the sky, from the ground, the beings of the earth and sky, for help and guidance. All the Indian traditions say this. All these, you know, first, second, third world, And every time it leads to mankind's downfall. That's the reason why the government, there will never be any disclosure. They're going to tell you, yeah, there's something here because everybody's seeing them. You know, we can't lie to everybody, but, you know, yeah, okay. So they're going to tell you we started in 2004, but, you know, they've been doing this way since, you know, Roosevelt days, you know, way before World War II. And they're not going to tell us exactly what's here. And they're trying to say that, you know, maybe it's a part of some kind of, you know, maybe China or Russia and things like this. But they don't have any evidence of this. And they're looking for scientific analysis. And I don't think they're, you know, it's not scientific. And so, yeah, they're hanging around these energy spots, you know, especially around where like nuclear missiles are being stored at, you know. So they're watching, they're waiting, they're watchers in the sky. They have their limitations also. So they can't come down and make contact with us, right? They have rules also. It sounds weird, but yes. Okay, they are on specific rules also. They just can't do what they want. They are still limited to what they are able to do here. This is why they haven't made contact with us, right? For one, I mean, they're not allowed to. For another reason is because it's not time yet. If one came down, shape-shifted, and says, hey, we're here, blah, blah, it would be front page news for probably a few days, but people would have to go back to work, back to school. They have a life. But if mankind needed them in such a way to survive, such as no food, no water, the air is polluted with radiation, things like this, you know, and this thing comes down and shapeshifts into a man and says, hey, I'm here. I'm the one you've been waiting for. These are my angels. I'm here to clean up the water, clean up the air, clean up the food, give you whatever you need. Worship me. Right? That's a whole new book of Revelations here. That's exactly what this Revelations is talking about. This is why they don't want you to know about this stuff. They don't want you to know about these ancient texts that talk about this stuff, that talk about these prophecies that we're in now. What about this plague that we're dealing with here? Right? Is this part of the four horsemen? Yes, man. Look at the evidence. Don't be so blind to the facts. We're in these biblical days. We're in the end of days here. These four horsemen are running wild, man. And these watchers in the sky are watching and waiting. They're waiting for the return of what's to come. They're waiting for this. They know. They've been released from this bottomless pit over the last 1,000 years. They're coming back. More and more is coming out of this bottomless pit. They're coming out. They're here. We see them now. We're seeing more and more and more of them. That's why they're coming out with this documentation. Because they have to say something. I mean, because now the military pilots are tracking them and they're recording stuff now, so you just can't say. And they got to put people's mind at ease, you know. So they got to look at the Russians, they got to look at China, they got to look at other countries building technologies to do this, blah blah. So they're kind of pushing that direction, and there's no evidence of this yet, and that's what they're saying. So they're trying to tell us, you know, look, okay, we're going to admit that there's something here, but we're not going to tell you everything. We're not going to tell you the history of these creatures. I did it again. The history of these beings. Okay, looks like that is it. Looks like that's it. So that's all that I could find here. So it's interesting, you know, because all this time, the information has been on these mountains out here. Okay? I mean, all the sightings has been out here all the time. Look at the man looking up at a flying diamond. That's not a kite. They didn't have kites back then. A man looking up at a flying diamond, a flying UFO. Look at that. All the information has always been here. It's always been with us. And when you start looking at the evidence here, looking at the prehistoric photographs, they tell you, look at that. What the hell is that? There is a guy waving to an orb in the sky. Hello? McFly. Oh my God. Oh, is that something that we see in the skies today? Is he waving to a UFO or currently now UAP? Come on now. Let's look at the evidence here. Let's look at Earth's history. Let's look at our past. And our past tells us that these things have been here before and continue to be here. The information has always been in our grasp. We need to look at all this data here and look at the evidence. Look at this. Flying saucers? No. Flying entities? Yes. Let's look at what's really here now. Let's examine the facts. Thanks for joining us, Heather. And my wife Pam, how's it going? Great show. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. So that looks like that's pretty much it. And, you know, it's great that they're coming out and they're saying, you know, that, you know, they're acknowledging. Of course, I think they've always done that, right? I mean, even like the Project Blue Book and things like that. I mean, they always try to come out, but then all of a sudden it just gets scratched. Everything gets erased. So, and from the documents that I received, it looks like there's more. I mean, I only received 8 pages, and it clearly looks like 9. You know, so I don't know what happened to the other pages, but look at the evidence here. I mean, look at the carvings, look at the drawings left for us to understand. We have people looking up at things above their heads. All right, it's the exact same stuff that we are seeing in the skies today. All right, all this stuff. All this, what the Phoenix Lights is, all of this information is in the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona, and probably in your area too, where you're seeing UFOs. Now look at the history here. Look at this crazy stuff, okay? Look at this one here. This right here is on South Mountain. All right, now I have seen this. I saw this creature in New York when I was living in New York. I saw these 4 spheres, and they're going counterclockwise. They look like jacks, okay? And then I come out to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm up here on South Mountain, and lo and behold, look at all the debris. Look at this. See what the CCC did? They blew all of this up, all right? But they left this petroglyph here, thank God. And it shows the exact same sighting that I saw in New York during the time of 9/11. Now, look at these paintings here. See the orbs? And what has this done? This was from, what year is this? 1561. Look at the orbs. Now, look at this one here. Look at the jacks. You see the jacks in that? The flying orbs and the crosses with the spheres on them? Look at that. And then look at the petroglyph. Do you see the resemblance here? This stuff has been going on. This has always been in our Earth's history. And they're trying to tell us, well, we just have unconfirmed knowledge of these things. Man, bullshit, dude, look. They're telling us. They didn't have video cameras back then. I mean, the Indians did best they could to explain what's here. And then the 1539 people, or whenever this was carved, I mean, they had paintings. And they're trying to tell us, look at this. Look what we saw in the sky. Look at the evidence here. And they're trying to say that they don't understand what's here. They don't know what's here. Yes, they do. They know exactly what is here. Earth's history shows this. All the evidence shows what is here and their history. Now they come out with this document. Well, at least they're coming out with something. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be the end of the show. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Make sure it says The Phoenix Lights in front of Petroglyphs in the Sky, all one word. And thank you guys so much for watching. And keep your eyes on the skies, because you never know what you're going to see next. Thanks again, you guys.